So, good afternoon. This is Little Miss Wow, and this is our next instalment in our Wow Hours. Just so we're really clear, I am actually dressed. Amanda made the very kind point that when I actually got on the screen, I was like this. So, all you could see was the tops of my shoulders and my glitter lips, and you couldn't see any clothes. But I do have clothes on, so don't panic, everybody. So, this is my lovely, 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 and I would probably say my newest friend, I would say, don't you think? I think that's
Yes,
right. I think that's right. So this is Amanda. So Amanda, I met. Well, we first probably met properly, didn't we? It would be in Vancouver, wouldn't it? MDRT when we went for lunch with
we did.
Jenny.
In your visit to Australia, we did do dinner that
Oh, we
night at
did,
the.
we did, we did. Of course, we did. I was thinking much more recent. Of course, it was. Of course, bloody hell. That whole time was just like a whirlwind. Honestly,
Blair. Yeah.
combining motherhood and professional speaking is never a good thing. Um, so yeah, and obviously then we spent a bit more time together properly, didn't we, with Jenny when we went for lunch in Vancouver. And then this year at MDRT involved a bit of dancing,
Maybe,
alcohol, and lots of hanging out together.
which was much more fun.
Yeah, and you sort of got adopted. I'm not sure if you adopted them or they adopted you. So Doug Bennett and David Braithwaite, David Braithwaite, are like your newest best friends.
Yes, absolutely. Well, what's not to love? Seriously.
I know, yeah, true, true. I just have the privilege of being in the same country as them. It's
You
quite a
do.
challenge. So tell everybody a bit about you. Tell us a bit about you, your business, what's going on.
Okay, so financial advisor based on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. I actually run two businesses in financial planning. So Wealth Planning Partners is my baby that I've been involved with the longest, and late last year I also incorporated a new firm called Trusted Aged Care Services. So they're the two main children in my life, aside from children I actually gave birth to. My son is nearly 21 and he's working with me in Wealth Planning Partners, and my daughter Madeline is a makeup artist, and now and then she does a little bit of admin for me.
Is she really a makeup artist? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh,
Very good.
how old is she?
She's 18.
Is she? Gosh, flipping heck. Oh, you know what? Like I have lessons on how to put my makeup on, so good job. Good job. That saves her a few quid.
It does. She's very handy.
Yeah, I bet she. I bet she. Can you just come around and do my makeup? I'm going out. So how long? So how long have you been in business? So was it a young career for you, or is it a later career?
No, I sort of fell into planning when I left high school. So 1991, I started as a secretary to a Brit. He'd moved over from London and working in Barclays for a while. And back then, he was a life advisor and did a few pensions. And he was a friend of my father's. My dad was a fire and general insurance agent.
Oh wow.
I've been around financial services forever. And yeah, just started as a secretary. And as I suppose the industry started turning into a profession, wasn't a secretary to a lifey anymore. I became a PA to a financial planner.
Oh, how things change. Oh, amazing job. It's amazing what a job title can do.
Sounded much more fancy.
Yeah.
And after I'd had the two kids, I came back to work. I'd taken a couple of years off and decided to become an advisor myself. So started studying in around 2000, became an advisor in 2001, rebranded the business to Wealth Planning Partners in 2005, and I pulled him out when he retired in 2014. So
Gosh.
now I own it all myself.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously, we met through MDRT predominantly, and the job that you do, and the job that most do. There's a lot of financial advisors, agents, planners, but it's such you sort of, when you go to somewhere like MDRT, it's almost like everybody loves their job. Don't you think? Like that buzz in that room when there's 13,000, whether they're agents, life insurance agents, or full-blown holistic planners, they flipping love their job, don't they?
Absolutely.
Like what?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so what? I mean, out of all the stuff that you do, like, what's your favorite element of the job? Like, what do you love the most?
Probably the strategy side.
Yeah.
people have got a lot of complexity in their lives. Now, if you've got kids and you've got debt, you run a small business, you're really time poor. And the fact that I can, come in with my cape and be super Amanda.
Yeah.
I can help you. That is the part I really love, the strategy side. Being able to, be the person who can help out. Most people are so confused or afraid when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Being able to provide that clarity is a very cool part of what I do.
And obviously, from a UK perspective, we talk, generally within the guys that I know, we talk a lot about the Australian market and how the Australian market are all fee based and how the Australian market seem to have it licked and how the Australian market sort of, because they're ahead in time, they seem to have been ahead in. Is that actually true? Because when I kind of chat to, little pockets of Australian advisors, it's all a bit different depending on, who it is. So, I mean, where are you at in Australia with things like regulation and kind of how you run your practices and what's going on there?
Yeah, well, coming to you from the future.
Yeah, obviously. What time are you there? Are we on like the next day? What time is it there? Oh my Jesus!
So my eyes are a little,
It's all right. Look great.
The investment side, we went through change a fair while ago, and commissions were pretty much banned from all investment products. And it's a fee-based service, which I believe you've been through yourself.
Yeah.
We've also come a long way with what we call our LIF, which is our life insurance framework, and the banning of large upfront commissions, which probably to you sound rather piddly, means no longer will we get fees over 100% for an insurance.
Right, okay.
So they're coming down over a 3-year period to 88%, then the next year 77%, then 66%. But our trail is about 10 times yours, and it will be 22, which means we can build up quite a saleable asset as far as the business goes.
Right.
We've got, this higher trail base. At the moment, a lot of advisors still take the upfront, which is around 110% with an 11% trail.
Right, okay.
And there is a hybrid and a level model already available. Many advisors have transitioned to a hybrid model already, which is around 88% with a 22 trail. The level is somewhere between 22 and 23% ongoing.
Blimey.
And none of it changes the premium. It's just the advisor's choice which one they'd like to take.
Oh, really? So where's the kind of what? I mean, when I did the little tour, the reasonable size tour around Australia, like the advisors seem to be so different, like culturally so different. I just remember sort of like Brisbane, even like in Sydney, which is Queensland. It's Queensland, isn't it? That Queensland.
Queensland, Sydney is New South Wales.
Right. So it was definitely more Brisbane then. A lot more sort of entrepreneurial in terms of how they saw stuff. I don't know. It's so different across the country.
Yeah, it is. And culturally, like Queensland's what we call the Sunshine State. We're very laid back. A lot of people come to where I live on the Gold Coast or the Sunshine Coast for their holidays or to retire. It's a little bit Florida, I suppose.
Oh, okay, right.
On the beach. Sydney is probably a more business fund manager.
Okay.
All the advisors there are probably mostly not in the CBD. They're out in the burbs.
Right, okay.
A lot more multicultural, full-blown financial planners, suits, a lot more serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, around the country we do differ greatly in our approaches. And you've still got that element of, I suppose we call them the old lifeies, where career life insurance agents who, done so well over the years, they're very anti these changes in the legislation.
Yeah, we've had them. Same.
Yeah, which, they're sort of a dying breed, sadly, because it's such a wealth of knowledge that will be going. And on top of the LIF, we've also got minimum education standards.
Okay.
Which going forward, I think by 2023, everyone will need to have a degree.
Really?
Yeah. Which is that's going to see a mass exodus of the 55 plus market who
Yeah.
just don't go back to the drawing board. So there's a new group set up called FASEA, FASEA, who will be looking at how they implement those requirements. At the moment, they're putting forward that it'll be a 100-point check, like a passport or a
Wow.
driving.
Okay.
CPD points will count for some if you've done studies of a diploma or an advanced diploma or a degree, whether it's relevant to the industry. So each subject will have certain points attached, and you'll just have to fill in the gaps basically if you don't make the points.
Well, the thing is, ultimately, it's the right way to go. It's the right thing to do. We've seen it here where, and this is probably not the call to do it, but when RDR kicked in over here, the biggest challenge that it had was the advisors kind of everyone was having an identity crisis. They were neither planner. So let's take a guy that lives down the road from you. He's one of them lifers, but he's an awesome guy. Like, he's great at relationships. He's got the gift of the gab. People buy into him. They love him. His clients love him, but he's just not academic enough to pass the exams. What's the shame about that? And it's kind of the same as we had here to a point, is the market will lose him because there's nowhere for him to go at all. When that 100-point check comes in, there's nowhere for him to go, so he'll have to leave. Well, what a shame, because if he had him, and he had an awesome kind of technical support or an advisor that worked with him, he could stay and this guy could stay. But this guy, who's technically a genius, can sit and pass every 100-point check plan that they throw at him.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the people skills or no.
Yeah. So here, my battle in the UK is I'm trying to implement almost these new segmented roles, which is why I'm doing the stuff with the power planning standard. Because, which we'll talk about in a second, because I really want to get your insight into kind of what you think that role is going to become in Australia, because we've had quite a bit of input on the standard, actually, from the guy like Matt Fogarty, from Mike Bynum, from the AFA. So I think, so do you think, yes, there's going to be loads that leave, but how do you feel about that?
I think we will be losing, those wise grey heads that have been around for a long time. And I'm sure, if you're part of MDRT, you know that there's this beautiful sharing, that there's always enough business for everybody, and everybody giving back to the industry. So the AFA has been very active in putting together a group that they call Gen Next, where the the younger, and they've also got another part in that where it's inspiration for all the female advisors, which is currently around 15% of the industry, so that they're supported as well, so that women who are in paraplanning or administration roles who'd like to step up into planning, they too can be mentored into those roles.
Yeah.
The AFA is trying to capture some of that wisdom and knowledge. There's a few family businesses where dad's passing that knowledge down.
Of course.
I think we will lose that beautiful element of the guys who did know how to sell, and they're all about people.
I know. And they love it. They just, they love their job, they love their clients love them, and it doesn't make them rip-off merchants. It just means that they know where their skills lie, and their skills are in the relationship, fundamentally and foremost of the whole role that they do. And we've lost so many of them in the UK, and now you've got sort of advisors who are kind of in no man's land because they're not technical and they're not great at sales, and then are just plodding along and they're struggling as advisors because they're neither or. They're neither great at sales and relationships or technical, and they're really struggling in business. And I've had conversations with quite a few and said, jack it in, like sell your business to another, because you've not got what it takes to take your business forward. And that's a really flipping difficult conversation to have with somebody who's been in the business for 20 years.
And most of them, I think they know that in their heart, but they just need someone else to give them that push. It's such a wrench for them to be going this is my baby, basically.
Well, of
So.
course, and it, you know, and often it's part of who they are. Like that, it's been their part of their personality and their life, and it's so tricky. But obviously, in terms of your planning and your next steps. So you know, I remember when we was chatting at MDRT. I think this was when we didn't have any alcohol, or were singing on karaoke. I think honestly, anyone that wants to go to MDRT, it isn't all about karaoke and alcohol. It's just that's where you actually get to know lots of people. So, you know, so you mentioned about your son joining you. So tell us a bit about that.
Um, we sent him to trade college for his last 2 years of high school, and he decided to become a mechanic.
Right.
So he was after he finished his grade 12's our senior year in high school, and he'd gone 2 years into his apprenticeships. Unfortunately, he'd had two employers, and neither of them were fabulous teachers.
Oh,
And
okay.
you know, they'd say, need to go and change a timing belt. And he's like, well, I've never done that before. Can someone show me? And of course, then he'd muck it up, the car would come back, and then he'd get in trouble. So he wasn't learning what he wanted to be learning. You know, he's also a smart-ass 19-year-old kid.
who thinks he knows everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he came to me one day at the office and said, Mum, you know, I've always talked about maybe doing my studies. Can you sign me up? And I've been saying to him, I really want you to finish your apprenticeship, you know, and have a trade you can always fall back on. And he just said, look, I really don't think I'm going to have a job to go back to after Christmas.
Really?
So I said, right, okay, well, you can still have your job and do your study part-time. And the next morning he rings me at about 7:30 in the morning and says, you know, what are you up to? So, well, putting my face on like I do it.
Like every girl does at 7:30.
And he goes, oh, I've got my tools in the back. They've just sent me home.
Gosh.
So he obviously knew that it was coming. And so he came in just sort of part-time to start with and then into full-time administration. So, you know, I'm being a bit tough. He does need to learn all the baby steps.
Yeah, totally right.
So he's finished his diploma and his advanced diploma. The Tax Practices Board has to sign him off that he's allowed to, by experience, become an advisor. Now this is very new. This has just been introduced from July. And he's got to do more transitional subjects. He's got to do Australian law, or Australian taxation and commercial law, I think, on top of the taxation subject. And he will have to, you know, basically immediately commence his pathway to a degree.
Okay.
As well. I'd love him to go and work for somebody else and get experience. I think, you know, he's only going to get the mum tank with me, which isn't a bad thing, but you know,
you'll either be brutally brutal with him, or the problem is, I mean, I've worked with advisors here who work with their children, and they say exactly the same. Maybe we could do like a placement, like we'll swap them over. That would be fun. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
You know, if PJ wants him, I'm happy for PJ.
Yeah, no, totally right. Totally. But it's interesting because obviously you're his mom, and you're also an advisor, and you're a businesswoman, and you know you're ballsy in all them roles as it is. So he's going to be like, ah! Mum's after me. So who else works in the wealth business with you?
I have another full-time, my EA, Leanne. She actually started many years ago. I met her through my kids' school. She was my nail technician. And then
they're multi-skilled. That's all I can say. Mine is too.
Then I said, can you come and do some cleaning at my home for a while? And then I said to her, you know, can you do some admin for me? And basically now she's completed her advanced diploma in self-managed.
Oh my God, that is unbelievable. So hang on, I need to repeat this. So she started as your nail technician. Then, I joke, and I actually say to advisors here in the UK, I'm like, you just take anybody on. Like, if they just knock on your door and go, do you want a job? You were like, yeah, come on in. This is ridiculous. So she started off as your nail technician. Then she became your cleaner. Then she does admin. And now she's looking at getting qualified.
She is qualified.
That's unbelievable.
So that's talking about mentoring through the...
You couldn't make this up, though, could you? Let's be honest. Like, if somebody said, this person did this, you'd be like, oh, that's funny. That never happened. That's crazy.
Because I do travel a bit, Leanne isn't, like, she doesn't bring new clients into the business. But because I've got a large book, she looks after all my existing clients. So
yeah.
the if I'm not there, there's always someone they can talk to and get advice from. So
Oh, it's really great.
I and my son, and Leanne's daughter works part-time doing admin role for me now.
It's a proper like family affair, eh?
It
Proper
really
job.
is.
Is that quite common in Australian firms, that it's quite close knit like that?
There are quite a few generational families
Yeah. Okay.
in business, but there's a lot also that swap and change between like business development manager roles and into advice
Yeah.
firms. So there's a bit of that goes on as well.
Do you think that's got anything to do with the size of the country? Like, so obviously, you know, I mean, I'm pulling from kind of my MDRT knowledge and knowing how you guys all are when you're all together from Australia. But like, because, you know, when you were talking about the difference in advisors, well, we get that, you know, from here where I am, it's just north of London. London's a different, you know, London's a Sydney, if you like. And then you kind of go around the country. The difference is we're like 20 minutes to the next like city or whatever, like you're hours and hours. So do you think that when you get firms that are in an area like Brisbane, for example, you all stick together a bit, and then therefore your pool of resources is smaller, I guess, is it, or bigger? I don't know. How does that work?
Our entire population is only 24,000 million. Sorry,
I was
so
going to say.
24 million. I'll take that back. I think there's around 24,000 advisors. So I don't know. Maybe it is, and maybe the more regional areas definitely more family based. But I suppose
Yeah.
it's different in a lot of different firms. So.
Yeah, interesting. It's a sort of a dynamic I never really thought about, because you have to really take into account the distance, don't you? I mean, like, you know, we have people that, I mean, I swear to you, like in Scotland, there's sort of two main parts to Scotland. There's Edinburgh and there's Glasgow, right? And I would say probably they're about, I don't know, let's say they're an hour by car. If you run a workshop in Edinburgh, the Glasgow lot won't come. Too far. Too far. I've literally had to do double workshops because the Edinburgh advisors stay in Edinburgh and the Glasgow advisors stay in Glasgow. Well, you're like, you know.
Well, Queensland probably everywhere is a little bit like that. The Gold Coast guys don't like driving to Brisbane. The Sunshine Coast guys don't like driving to Brisbane. The Darling Downs, which is up in Toowoomba, they don't like driving to Brisbane. So Queensland is much more diverse. And then we've got far north Queensland. So where David came and spoke in Cairns in far north Queensland, that's almost 2,000 kilometres from me. And it's in the
almighty.
So we're pretty much as big as, you know, the contiguous United States. So, you know, Brisbane to Perth is kind of like New York to LA. It's over a 5-hour flight.
Oh, it's unreal. You just forget how vast the country is. And what freaked me out was you went through different time zones. Like, you'd be going across. And you'd be on it, like me and Ruby were totally freaked out. Like you'd go fly across and the times had changed. You're like, I'm still in the same flipping country.
And the other, like, I mean, I can drive easily an hour and a half to see a client, but I've got board meetings in Sydney this week, and I jump on a plane, and that's an hour and a half to, you know, it's about 900 kilometres south.
So any advisors that moan about having to get in a car to have a client meeting, this poor girl has to fly to her client board meetings. Be thankful. Be thankful you don't live in Australia. The key thing, obviously, that's kicking around at the moment, and I think most people who kind of have been following me was aware of it, but I sat on the risk info round table at MDRT, ran by Risk Info and Peter Sobels. Well, obviously Matt Fogarty was on that committee, and I kind of was, you know, soaking it all in, and we were talking about getting an international perspective on under insurance and financial advice. And one of the big topics that came up was paraplanners, and how paraplanners, you know, globally are a big deal. And I kind of parked it there in that discussion for that moment. And then I got chatting to Mark Bynum from the AFA, who was talking to me about, you know, the role of paraplanners in Australia. Like, so what's your understanding and take on, you know, that whole marketplace, you know, that role in a firm, and what do you think your firm's going to do to kind of go forward? Do you think you'll just have all advisors and administrators, or do you think you'll go for that role in the firm?
It's expensive to run in-house. I actually utilise a firm based in the Philippines. So all my plans. My risk plans, I'm very familiar with the
Okay.
main software that we use, so I can turn out a risk plan myself within probably half an hour.
Okay. Okay.
So I mostly do that. I'm also training my son to be able to take over that part.
Okay.
But yeah, all my, the risk ones are the risk and super, or we have a self-managed pension that we can use here. Those can take 5 to 8 hours to put together.
Gosh.
So there's a few Australian firms that have now got paraplanning services based in Manila or Cebu or India.
Okay. So they're outsourced. So are they mainly being outsourced?
Yeah. I can get a plan that would here cost me 1,200 Australian dollars to put together, done for around 200.
Wow.
So it makes
That's
very
crazy.
good economic.
You know what I would like you to do, because obviously, and I would value this, and I hope it would bring some value to your son too. Is literally this afternoon we've got the final committee meeting for the Paraplanner standard. So I've sent it to Matt, sent it to a few others in Australia, Canada, and so on, and we've had their feedback back. And this morning I've spent the time just updating the standard because I want to make it international. I'd be very interested, given your son's progression and actually where he's coming from, was almost to get his and your feedback on, you've obviously got your role as an advisor and as a planner, but actually could you use the standard and the enclosing documents to almost form his training and development? Because the way that I've written it, okay, you might outsource your paraplan, but the way that I've almost written it, and I said this to on a call this morning, when we've written the standard, we've almost created a superhuman on paper. Like, it's got you imagine designing the best possible administrator, technical support person, and it's in a standard. So I would love him to have a look at it, maybe try and benchmark himself, maybe map a bit of a plan, and I'll send you a copy for you to kind of have a little look at, because I'd be really interested, given the fact you outsource your para planning, to see how that would fit with his progression and his role.
Yeah,
do you think he'd be up for that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good. Okay, I'll do that. That'd be pretty cool. Okay. So tell me about your book, because we had a little Skype call, didn't we, a little while ago? What's going on with your book, and why did you decide to write it?
Well, I'd originally started writing a different book based on my experiences with the Hunger Project. So I did a bit of work in Africa and got to learn very quickly about the power of mindset.
Right.
And the stories that these people, the poorest of the poor, and how the Hunger Project is helping them to get their own way out of poverty. And I just really resonated with how they did that, and sort of incorporated some of that back into my business, how for 2 years they work on the mindset of these people, because obviously if they don't buy into it, it's useless, which is the same with planning. We can give you a beautiful plan. If you're not interested, you got to put it in. Then they work through something they call vision, commitment and action. Okay. Which is basically a plan as well. What's your vision for the future? What are you prepared to commit to, and what are the actions you need to take? Which, it's such a simplistic version of what they do, but these people are turning their lives around, which is fantastic. So it originally sort of started from that, and I was writing it and how we can apply that in our lives, and it sort of became a little bit about another financial advisor saying how to do a budget, and I just didn't want that. No. So I just thought there was also so much more information out there, and it sort of morphed as I was doing it, and it became, so the book I'm doing now it's an interview series where I speak to people from around the world who are in business. Yeah. I also speak to financial professionals, also from around the world, so my 4 lovely UK friends are all in that. And basically everyday heroes, so people like our clients who, they do face big battles or health issues, and, how do you just plod along, and, so it's asking them a series of questions about what's the best advice they've ever been given, what would they like to leave behind as a legacy, if they've faced financial setbacks, how did they overcome them, and I just thought that collective wisdom would be a really good way to showcase not just what advisors do, but how it benefits clients. Yeah. When people in business, take on board what advisors say, whether they think it's relevant or not. 80% of Australians don't get financial advice. So this book is aimed basically at that 80% to say, look, here's just some collected anecdotal stories and what I've learned from all these people. And also to, I suppose, dispel a lot of the myths that, you know, financial advisors are these fat cat lechers who are out to risk. I haven't met a financial advisor yet who left high school and said, I want to be a financial advisor.
or I want to be a financial advisor and rip people off.
Yeah, so, I mean, everyone from the professional drummer we know who's become a financial professional to, you know, bank clerks to, you know, stockbrokers, people who've fallen into this profession because they want to help people. Yeah. I suppose I just want to peel back the layers and say, look, these are people who are running small businesses like you. Their object is to help you and, you know, give the strategies that they're providing. So I'd like it to become a series. Like this one's on really great advice. Maybe then I'll do another one on really great insurance advice.
Yeah, that's great.
Maybe property advice. So hopefully it will become a living, breathing thing and just interview some really incredible people along the way.
You know what was... Well, you know what, because obviously I think it was early my time. I think I did it in the morning and it was sort of later on in the afternoon when you interviewed me, and, you know, Mark was just in the living room, and when I was talking to you and you were asking me these questions, a couple of things were kind of jumping to my mind, and Mark and I had a conversation afterwards, and I said to him, you know, like, even just between a private sector person who's entrepreneur or runs their own business through to, you know, Mark who works for the fire service, very public sector, you know, very much his role is defined and so is his pay grade. We have very, very different opinions, relationships and stories about money. Massively different. And it then struck me that when advisors sit down in front of clients, I don't think they go back far enough. Like if you sat down with a client, you're probably one of the best ones. But, you know, most advisors, I don't know if they go back enough, because how can you understand me? This is kind of all because you interviewed me and I got chatting about it. But how can you understand my future relationship with money if you don't understand my past relationship with money?
Yeah, well, the fact finds don't usually cater for that.
Of course they don't. And advisors by nature are so, let's get you sorted, let's get organised, that actually, when I chatted it through, it almost hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, well, of course I'm going to save or not save like that, because that's how my dad did it. And that's, you know, and these weren't, again, just like what you were asking me questions, it wasn't about what people had said to me. It was just what I'd seen.
Yeah.
Like, my dad never spoke to me about money. Like, he just, this...
around money from our parents are inherited by observers.
Yeah.
The parents sat them down and said, right, honey, money doesn't grow on trees. This is what you need to do to make a buck.
Although I say that regularly to Ruby. And then I say to her, when you've made lots of money, I hope you're going to buy me as much as I buy you. Is also the sentence that follows.
And, you know, I've had completely opposite stories from people. You know, one woman I've interviewed never wants her children to realise that they have to trade time for money. And others like yourself and Dave Braithwaite are saying, no, children need to know that time is money and, you know, you have to do chores to earn something. So there's such different views out there. And look, none of them are, you know, are right or wrong.
No, of course.
It's what works for you and, you know, what's going to resonate with the person reading the book. Some might go, well, that's a crock. One woman told me her parents, the stories she inherited were that only people who were drug dealers got ahead.
No way. And every time
she drives past a nice house, she has to stop herself from thinking, must be drug money. If we can break down those stories and, you know, we're thinking, oh, what a stupid story, maybe we could turn around and go, oh, maybe some of my stories are a bit silly too, or I could change them or come to another realisation. So I've just loved learning people's stories, and I'm so looking forward to
I think honestly, like, you know, to be fair, there's a lot of advisors writing books at the moment. It seems to be the big, you know, be a key person of influence and write a book, and it's great. But I loved how you did it quite different. You know, it wasn't about Amanda. It was about the lessons that we've all dragged through into our current day and are likely to take forward. But it did change my thinking. Like, I'll be honest, like when I put the phone down, I was like, actually, I don't like that way. I don't like the way I think about that. I didn't like it. I didn't know where it had come from until you asked me.
Yeah. And then,
No.
like you said, you're telling Ruby money doesn't grow on trees. Is that actually a lesson you want her to learn?
No, this is it. You absolutely. So within about 48 hours, we'd lined up all the stuff we're selling on Facebook, and she'd got her Disney dresses for £5 online. And but she, the other day she's come downstairs. She went, "I think we can sell this," because she was. I think that's good, like, because she wants something better or more than she wants the things she wants to sell. And do you have car boot sales over in Australia? Well, she's adamant she wants to do a bloody car boot sale now. Like she's like, can we take the truck? Can we take Chevy and put all my toys in the back and sell them? I'm like, oh my lord, well, I've created a monster.
Probably also lessons there that do you need this stuff that you're going to buy if you're only going to put it in a charity sale 2 years later as well, or what could you have done with the money?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, even if she gives it to charity, even giving stuff to charity, it's a monetary decision too, because it's like, well, I could sell this and get X, or I could give it to people that need it more than I do. So I love it. I think what you're doing I think it's great. Like I was really glad to be part of the with my two partners in crime that I've got. I can't seem to shake them off, Amanda. It's quite embarrassing now. I don't need it.
Good problem to have.
I know, yeah, totally right. Listen, it's been absolutely, absolutely lovely. Last question I've got is, what are you most excited about? What's coming up for you that you're most excited about?
Apart from the book, probably that I've joined Strategic Coach.
Yes.
In a big leap, and now that I've signed up and got my welcome kit, I'm just raring to go. And the fact that I have to wait, I'm not very good at that. So.
Impulsive is the word I'd use. So, and just to remind everybody how far you have to travel to go to your Strategic Coach workshop.
Yeah. Door to door, it'll probably be about 20 hours. So it's a 14-hour flight for me from Brisbane to LA, but Brisbane's an hour and a half on the train. Then there's the wait, and then there's getting there and Ubering to the hotel. So it'll be a big deal. And for the one day, it's actually 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
With travel time and all the rest. So.
And why'd you do it? Because you don't have to, but why'd you do it?
I think the feedback from MDRT when I was talking to people, that it just seemed to be the common theme, for all the people who were top of the table or running really successful businesses, that the common theme was they all do Strategic Coach. So it seemed like a no-brainer to me. That I think because the profession we're in is transforming so much, we can't keep doing business as usual. Clients are sick of it, or if they're not seeing value in what we do, then how are we articulating it to them more clearly? Every year now we have to send our clients what's called a fee disclosure statement.
Yeah.
Even if they signed up for that 20 years ago, if they're paying a fee. So, they've always had this opt-out. Now, new clients have to opt into our fees every 2 years. So we can do this great service, and after 2 years they go, well, thanks for setting that up. See you later. We don't see value. Goodbye. So we really have to try and think outside the box, and hopefully, Strategic Coach will help me, take the business to the next level. Because
and straight up, I applaud you. I've got advisors who will not actually leave their town, and they won't develop themselves. It drives me nuts. So, and there's you, and there's Brad Isaac, and there's other guys over in Oz that are doing Strategic Coach or any coaching program, getting yourself to MDRT, which is a 36-hour flight or something ridiculous it is. We all think you're absolutely bonkers, but then I've got some idiot moaning because they want to go 2 hours in a car. Or they want to get a train into London. Really?
Isn't it? So,
yeah. But good luck. It's a great program, and it's hats off to you for actually having the balls and putting yourself out there to do it. So, you get my full girl applause.
Thank you.
Amazing. So thank you very, very, very much. I have, as usual, loved chatting, and it's just such a shame you live so far away, because I'd see you a lot more.
Well, I did see our return flights for $800 the other day.
Did you?
Can I do dinner with you guys?
I'm on my way. I'll be there in 3 days.
Make a reservation.
It's so far. Listen, thank you so much, Amanda. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll stop the recording, and we'll maybe chat a bit more. Bye.
Okay. Yeah.